بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه بعد. We said التحريف is a word always related to negative type of changing, okay? The changing which is will basically take the word from, or change the statement or one word from the correct meaning of it to another meaning. And this can happen by two ways. Either by changing the word itself, so the changing will happen to the text, or the second category, the changing happen to the meaning. We keep the text the same way it is, but we change the word. Basically, so the changing either will be to the text or to the meaning. To the text, as you heard earlier, that he will change either the word from one word to another, switch it, or will add one word to it, take one word out, or even change the tashkil, the haraka, dhamma, fatha, kasra. He will change it to be able to change the meaning of the word. And that happened in the past, but it was not so common. Why? Because people memorized the textual evidence. They knew the textual evidence very clear. Give another example of hadith. For example, somebody said, لا نبي بعدي. Again, لا La, which means no, prophet after me. طيب, لا نبي بعدي. No prophet after me. Somebody came and he said, no, the hadith is like this. لا نبي بعدي. With two dhamma. What that means, La is mubtada. Nabiyyun khabar. I don't know if you understand what that means. It means La is a prophet after me. So he said, my name is La, and I'm the one who the Prophet ﷺ was mentioning here. Do you see how bad this is? How funny it is, this is? So, La Nabiyyun, it will be as if the Prophet ﷺ said, no, or La is a prophet will come after me. As if there is somebody, his name, La. Just by changing the Dhamma and the Fatha. And there is other examples like this in the Hadith also, that people change the way the Hadith read, and that will cause changing to the meaning. For example, this is common, we call it tasheef. If it's done by bad intention, it means it meant to promote something bad. But sometimes the tasheef, the changing of the word, done by mistake. That's what we're talking about it. But for example, there is very famous hadith in Sahih Muslim. A man came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I've been told that your messenger came to us in our village and told us that if we pray only 5 times a day, fast only 30 days, only the month of Ramadan, and we give zakat, and we make hajj if we can, and we worship Allah who not associate other with Him, and we believe that you are Muhammad Rasulullah, will go to Jannah. Is that true? He said, yes. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I'm not going to add anything to these. That's it. That Allah only made obligatory in us the 5 times a day. I'm not going to pray anymore. I'm not going to fast anymore. You see? So the Prophet ﷺ said, yes. From this we know that the only wajib, the only obligatory prayer is 5 times a day. That's why we said Tahit al-Masjid, Witr, Fajr, Sunnah is not obligatory. Because if it is, the Prophet ﷺ said, no, it's not the only 5 times. There is all more prayer. That's why every single Siyam after Ramadan is volunteer. Okay? Anyway, so the man when he left, the Prophet ﷺ said, أفلح والله in صدق. See, wallahi. Some people wrote it وأبيه. أبي, هذه باء, this is باء, and this is ياء. See, there is similarity. The باء, if you write it fast and became like this and became like this by time, and they don't put dots in the old days, it can be missing, it looks wallahi. It could be changed to wallahi. Anyway, somebody wrote it wa abihi. And it's a narration, wa abihi. Which it means? Wow, here it's a form of swearing. As of the Prophet ﷺ, I swear by his father that he will be successful if he stick to what he said. So some people use this as an evidence. You can swear by other than Allah. Okay? Which is totally wrong, because the Prophet ﷺ said, anybody swear by other than Allah, he committed shirk. A form of shirk. It's not allowed. So this changing wallahi to abiyih tahrif. Regardless, most likely it was done unintentionally. But regardless, it is tahrif. Led to change totally the meaning. From swearing by Allah to swearing by one of His creation. The first one, tawheed. The second one is shirk. See how the tahrif of the word or the text can cause a lot of problem. طيب. But this is not the common one, as I said. The second one is the most common one, which is basically changing the meaning. Keeping the text the same way, but you change the meaning. You twist the meaning. Change the meaning from what to what? Can anybody figure out? From what to what? Who told you that the first meaning is what meant? What the first meaning actually? The first meaning is the meaning, the obvious meaning of the word or of the sentences. What is the obvious meaning? What the first come to your mind when you hear this word? That we call it in Arabic language al-zahir. Al-zahir, the obvious meaning. We call it what? Zahir, the obvious meaning. Aye. That's the way to write it. Z became Zahir. It's like Zuhr with Z. It makes me so frustrated when I see Z, a dot. It became Da.
That's what they created.
No, Za. Even though in the subcontinent they can pronounce it Da. That's right. Like in Pakistan, in India, in Bangladesh, they can pronounce it Da. Da. Did you say this man? This man. The man. You don't say Zaman. That's right. That's right. But the Dhuhr, they think it is Zuhr. It is Dhuhr. Anyway, طيب. Go back to the Al-Zahir. Al-Zahir is the obvious meaning. I'll tell you. I have seen in the battle, the one who, in the battle, the leader of the Muslims in the battle was a lion. Or I have seen a lion fighting left and right. Does that mean I'm referring the lion as the animal? Or a man who looks like a lion? Huh?
You're referring to the man.
To the man. who is so brave, so strong, like the lion. Okay? Why? What's the appearing meaning? What the first meaning come to you?
The first meaning that comes to me is the man.
The man. That's the obvious meaning. That's ظاهر. That's exactly what the ظاهر is. It is the first meaning that you understand from the sentences. You say, he's fast, mashallah, like a horse. Do I mean that he has 4 legs and he has a tail and his muscle exactly like the muscles of the horse? Or I mean he's fast because speeding, he's so strong. You see what I'm saying? So the obvious meaning, the first meaning come to your mind. That's right. When I tell you that for example, give you an example. When I tell you, I don't know if this in English you use this or not, but I'll tell you. Man, you're in my hand. You're my hand. Does that make sense to you in English?
I don't understand.
You're in my hand. You don't understand. Good. I like that. No, it's not something common in English. For example, I would say, okay, you know, you are in my mind. Do you use this? You're in my heart. It means I open my heart and I put you inside. I open my brain and put you inside. No one understands that. The obvious meaning, you are in my mind and I think about you. You're in my heart, it means I care and I love you and I care about you. That's right? So this, I want to try to say obvious meaning. The obvious meaning. When I said, mashallah, Khalil's writing is very good. It's very beautiful. Okay? His handwriting is very nice. Then obviously you tell me, and you show me something he typed on the computer. With that handwriting, when I said handwriting, the first meaning came to you what? With hand. Okay, I type it with my hand. It's also my handwriting, because I use my hand to type. We call this what? Playing games. You know? Trying to play around. You know what I'm saying? That's what we call, it's not a good way. It is either I'm joking, I'm trying to joke with you, or I try to deceive you. That's right? So, the obvious meaning, what we call al-zahir. Al-zahir. So, at-tahrif is to change the obvious meaning and to claim that the obvious meaning is not intended, and you bring another meaning other than the obvious. I tell you that no, I meant his typing was good. Oh, but handwriting, I thought handwriting, the obvious meaning is something you write with your hand, with the pen. No. Because typing also using your hand. You following me? Type. Hash. Is that clear? So let's take an example. When I tell you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam with his hand. What the obvious meaning? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam with Allah's hand. That's right? When I tell you no, it means he created him with his will, with his power. Not hand, power, will. Okay, you change now from the obvious meaning to another meaning. Listen carefully. If you don't have a proof for that, your tahrif, your changing, will be not acceptable, will be innovation, should be rejected, and it's haram. If you have a proof to support your changing, that the obvious meaning not intend, your changing will become an acceptable ta'wil. We call it ta'wil, acceptable ta'wil, which it means tafsir, an explanation to the meaning. So if you don't have a proof to support your claim, your changing became tahrif, totally unacceptable ta'wil. But if you have a proof to support what you're saying, this changing will be accepted. Will be accepted. Example. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told his slave, I was sick and you didn't visit me. I was hungry and you didn't feed me. What's the obvious meaning from I was sick and I was hungry? Hungry and sick. That's the obvious meaning. So immediately in the hadith, the slave or the Allah's servant, what he said, how come you are Allah and you're sick and you're hungry and I feed you, and how can I feed you and visit you when you're sick? I don't understand this. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, my slave so and so was sick, my slave so and so was hungry and you didn't visit him, you didn't feed him. So the obvious meaning in the first statement was meant or was not meant to? Was not meant. How we switch from the first meaning, we said the obvious is not meant, we change it to my slave was hungry, my slave was sick. Do we have a proof to make this change? To give other than the obvious meaning? Yes, which is in the text itself. So we must have a proof to change the obvious meaning. I think this is the key point between Ahl Sunnah and all the innovations groups, that they think that we believe that other than the obvious meaning can't be intended at all in Arabic language, which is nobody said that among Ahl Sunnah. Ahl Sunnah said yes, the obvious meaning sometimes not meant to be the meaning that this statement trying to prove, but you need the proof to support that. I'll give you another example. And let's take example a little bit in fiqh issue. Or something happened in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ said, you should not pray Asr any place but in Bani Qurayza, which is a place where Jewish lives. Some Sahaba thought that the obvious meaning is don't pray Asr until you reach there. Stick to that. Some others said, no, the obvious meaning is not meant. It means we have to rush. That's the point. Because Asr is very close, we have to rush to reach there before Asr. Based on what they said, the meaning is that we have to rush. What's the proof that they changed the obvious meaning to another meaning? What's the proof that they use? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. Allah said subhanahu wa ta'ala, as-salat have been described upon you in certain times. So Allah said that Asr time is this time, you cannot delay it. The other group said, let's take just the obvious meaning and stick to it, even if we pray Asr late in the night. But we have to pray to Bani Qurayza. They said, no, Allah said that the salat has certain time, and this is the proof that we use to say that the Prophet ﷺ didn't mean to delay the salat. What I'm trying to say here, that even though some of the group of the Sahaba, they did not take the obvious meaning, took other than the obvious meaning, but based on dalil, proof. Okay? So, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we as Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, part of our belief, we said, the obvious meaning must be taken unless there is a proof to say that the obvious meaning is not intent. Or the obvious meaning is not the right meaning to be taken. But let's go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names and attributes that we are talking about. If somebody told you, the obvious meaning of hand, it means he has fingers and knuckles and veins, and they are connected to the wrist, and the wrist need the palm, and connected to the shoulder, and that's tamthil. That's why we cannot take the word hands, the obvious meaning. That's the obvious meaning of the word hands. That's my proof. Allah said nothing similar to him. So if you said hand, the obvious meaning to hand, it will be knuckles and fingers and wrist and veins, and it means this three parts together, an elbow needed to make this hand function, and all this cannot be attributed to Allah. That's why we said hand here, it means power. That's my proof. We said, hold on. Hold on. You're saying that. Question. When you hear the word hand, is the word hand necessitate the hand that you have now as a human? Or it give you what? I'm going to be mad. Give you what? Concept, general meaning of hand. The word hand, it's a very general. We don't know how hand it looks like. So when we say Allah's hand, that became very specific. Allah's hand is different than our hand. It doesn't need veins and knuckles and wrist and three parts putting together. That's right. So we tell him, hold on. You have a wrong way of viewing Allah's hand, first of all. It doesn't necessitate that. And we believe that Allah has hand, and His hand not similar to anything else. So we believe in the verse that you are using. So basically you don't have a proof, you don't have an evidence allowed you to change the obvious meaning, which is Allah's hand, from being hand to say it's power or will or whatever other meaning. You get that? So you don't have a proof. So you're changing is what? Tahrif or acceptable ta'wil? Tahrif. Sin. It's innovation. Because you don't have a proof. That's why Ahl Sunnah, they don't say they are kuffar. Because they have doubt. They're trying to do something right, but they did a mistake. That's why we don't believe that they are not, we're still Muslims. But they did a mistake, a sin or a wrong deeds, which is changing the obvious meaning without a valid evidence. Another example. Somebody said, you know what, I cannot say Allah has mercy. Why? He said, Allah's mercy, it means paradise. It doesn't mean that He has something called mercy. Because mercy is weakness. Is a form of weakness, and Allah cannot be weak. That's right. He said, Allah is not weak. That's right, yes. He said, and mercy, it's a form of weakness. We said, hold on. Which mercy is a form of weakness? Your mercy as a human, but not Allah's mercy. Don't compare. Allah's mercy is not like our mercy. Allah's mercy is not out of weakness. Not out of weakness. Out of generosity. Out of being loving God. His mercy out of Him being generous. Being loving God. You see? That's why that's where His mercy come from. طيب. Forgiveness. He said, I cannot say that He forgive. Because forgive, it means He forgot. No, this is you, not Allah. Somebody said, Allah will not be angry at anybody. Because anger, it means when your blood boil and go all the way to your head and your cheek became red and you lose control, and Allah doesn't lose control. Allah doesn't get angry. He said, no. This is your anger, not Allah's anger. You cannot change that meaning, which is anger. This is not a valid proof. You see what I'm saying? So, when you change the obvious meaning from what it is intended to be to another meaning, will not be acceptable. Will not be acceptable. طيب, if I tell you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, Allah with us. What's the obvious meaning? With us. Wherever you are. Okay? Somebody said, okay, so Allah inside this room. He's with us? With us? In the Quran, Allah with us? With all of you. So He's with me, He said He's inside the room. And He said, look, or somebody else come in the internet tell you, Al-Imam Ahmad commit ta'wil. How? Al-Imam Ahmad said, when you hear that Allah with us, it means He's with us with His knowledge. Not Himself, His knowledge with us. طيب, you say, that's true. The obvious meaning is not His knowledge with us. The obvious meaning Him, Himself with us. How can you answer this? First of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this room, Himself, the Almighty, inside this room, Him or part of Him inside this room? Definitely no. You have a hesitation? Definitely no. Why? Because we know where is Allah? Where is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Above the heavens. So we know that this meaning which is appear to you from with us, that it might be He's inside His creation or mixed with His creation, as the extreme Sufi said, is absolutely wrong, because the hundreds of evidence we have in Quran and Sunnah, it says that Allah above His creation, separated from His creation. So I take that obvious meaning or that appearing meaning away and give you the meaning which is His knowledge. Yani He's aware of what you're doing. Based on the other evidence we have, which is proving that Allah is above the creation. We are consistent because we're saying we don't change and we don't leave the obvious meaning or the appearing meaning unless we have a valid proof. A valid proof. That's one way to answer this. And the other way said, yes, with us it means, it doesn't necessitate that He is mixing with us. In Arabic language, we say, I walk with the moon. I traveled with the moon. Very obvious in Arabic language. Okay? Sirtu wal qamar. I walked with the moon. It doesn't mean that the moon was next to me and the next or behind me in the camel or in my car. The moon is up there and I'm here and we are walking together. This togetherness, not necessitate that you are mixing or touching each other. It's a very obvious in Arabic language. Okay? It's very obvious. So even this word with us, we said the obvious meaning, it means with us, but without mixing. Because in Arabic language, it does not necessitate with, the word with, wa, it means mixing. That's why I said, I walk with the qamar, with the moon, sirtu wal qamar, and it doesn't mean that we are together in the same place. The qamar in his position high up in the sky, and this is, I'm here in the earth. So if this can happen with the qamar, so how about Allah? And also with us, it means that He never left us. He never left us. It's not like some philosopher said, God created the world, then He left the world, and He went to do some other job. Some philosopher, they have a theory that Allah created or put the system, and that's it. He's not exist in this universe anymore. He lifted and to another universe, to another creation. So He said, no, Allah with us. Okay? Yani for example, imagine this is the earth. Imagine this is the earth. Can you see this? Ramza? Can you see this? Huh? The earth is the circle in the middle, not the whole thing. Okay? This is the earth. Okay? And imagine this whole classroom is the first layer of the sky, or the skies. Okay? And that's what exactly is when it looks like we are smaller than this comparing to the universe. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala above the universe. Can't we say now in the classroom that this circle with us, linguistically, this with us or not? It means we are inside it? Doesn't necessitate that. So those people who said that Allah with us said that Allah inside the room, inside their classroom, or inside their house, or inside their bodies, is linguistically not acceptable, Islamically not acceptable. But my point is not about the meaning of with us. My point is to tell you the difference between when we have a proof to tell you that the appearing meaning can be changed based on proof or based on doubts. Doubts is not allowed. There is no legit evidence to support your claim. طيب. But I have a request, Yani. Don't get confused. And one of the way make you confused that you make a comment unrelated to the subject. Okay? Unrelated to the subject. Because if you do that, you just go to another direction other than what I'm trying to take you. And I mean by that, for example, if somebody said it means Allah hears all the dua. That's not my point here. He hears all the dua or not. Just try to concentrate on what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to tell you that tahrif is changing the obvious meaning. Changing the obvious meaning without dalil, without proof. And I give you an example of claiming that Ahl Sunnah do tahrif or they make ta'wil sometimes. Yes, we do that if there is a proof. If there isn't a proof, we have to keep the obvious meaning. Questions. Why we have to stick with the obvious meaning? Why we have to stick with the obvious, the appearing meaning? Why we said the original situation that we accept the obvious meaning? Why we put the obvious meaning as the original situation? Why we say tahrif to change the obvious to a new? Why we put obvious as is the original situation that everybody should submit to the obvious meaning? Why? Why we said al-zahir is what we should consider as the original situation, that the original way of looking to the text.
It's not poetry.
Huh?
It's not poetry, it's a statement.
Even poetry. This rule related to any language, to any aqeedah, fiqh, anything. We stick to the obvious meaning first.
That's rational.
That's irrational. Very good. That's common sense. Otherwise, if every word I say it, and I mean something other than the obvious, you're not going to understand what I'm saying. That's right. I'll be basically giving you riddles. That's right. If I tell you, this father, okay, I'm trying to deceive you. I'm playing my best with the words. I tell you, this father with his son, they were driving a car. And all of a sudden they had an accident. They took the son to an hospital, and they took the father to another hospital, another city. The doctor saw the child. The doctor said, I cannot operate on this child because this child is my son. How's that? Oh, maybe this is adopted father, maybe the grandfather, maybe now it's the mother, but just to make it easy. The doctor was the mother. Make sense? It's easy. But see, I'm playing with the word. I'm trying to make you confused. Is that what Allah trying to do in the Quran? Allah trying to deceive us in the Quran? Allah trying to give us riddles in the Quran? Huh? Al-Quran was described as a pure Arabic text. Arabic language is Arabic language, English language, French language, Japanese language, Urdu language, Jinn language, everything you imagine. This is the nature of any language, any communication. Always we take the obvious meaning, unless is not intended. You know, if I tell you, for example, what do we say? Give me just an American way of saying things, which is like I shot myself in the foot. Does that make sense? What do they say?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I shot myself in the foot, which it means hurt myself. Huh? What that means? Huh? I made a mistake. Okay? When you said, for example, there's so many ways. It's too many of them. I can't. Don't jump your guns. It means I'm all cowboy holding guns. Don't rush to thing. Hold your horse. Oh, I don't have a horse. You know? It's all these things. It's obvious that I don't mean that. Okay? You see, it's very clear. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, for example, Musa, you are in my eyes. Or the ship of Musa running in Allah's eyes. That's literal translation. In Arabic language, I say you are in my eyes, it means, like when I say you are in my heart. In my eyes, it means I'm watching you. You're in my eyes, like the way I protect my eyes, I'll protect you. It's a metaphor. You know, you always protect your eyes. So that's the point. I protect you the way I protect my eyes. So when he said you are in my eyes in Arabic language, it means you are in my protection. You are being watched. You know, I'm watching you. You know, I said like I'm watching you. You're in my eyes. So it basically means I'm looking after you. I'm looking to you. So all these meanings clearly understood. When we say Allah, Musa, or Nuh's ship, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's eyes, it means protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these obvious meanings, there is no changing here, there is no tahrif here, there is no ta'weel here. Okay? طيب. So basically we differentiate between things like this, and when somebody tell you, Allah doesn't have face, because that means He will be like humans. Who told you that? How about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy? How about Allah's life? How about Allah's existence? Oh, His existence different than ours. Okay, His face different than ours. That's not a proof for you. It's not enough for you to change the obvious meaning. To say that the obvious meaning not intended here. So basically, changing the meaning from the obvious, the appearing, to something far away is not acceptable. And Ibn Taymiyyah said, no one, and listen carefully, he said, he's an expert in this area. He said, no one ever tried to give other than the obvious meaning without a valid or legit evidence unless he made it worse. He made it worse than we tried to avoid. For instance, they said Allah doesn't have hand, because if we said Allah has hand, if Allah has hand, He would be similar to His creation. So what they say? They deny Allah's hand. Okay? Then they deny His mercy, His wisdom. And every single attribute, they said no, 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 no. Basically, it's like I tell you, I have beautiful tree. Ya salam, wonderful tree. Immediately you ask me, what kind of tree it is? Oh, it doesn't have a kind. Is it tall? No. Is it short? No. Has leaves? No. Has fruits? Unfortunately. It has roots? How deep is roots? Doesn't have roots. Okay. Does it have shape? No, it doesn't. Has a color? No, it doesn't. Does that tree exist? No. It became something unimagined. So basically, by denying Allah's names and attributes, instead of making Allah, they were afraid to make Allah similar to the existence creation. What they end up making Allah similar to the non-existent things, which is even worse. Instead of making him, they were afraid that by saying Allah has all these things and attributes, He will be similar to the existence things. By denying all of it as they did, the extreme group of them, He became like the unexistent, the non-exist things. And non-exist things worse than making Allah similar to the non-existence, worse than making Him similar to what is exist. No doubt. Because the existent things are higher level than the non-existent things. If this makes sense to any one of you. Or you can't comprehend that. Anyway, I don't want to go to philosophical argument. But what I'm trying to say, give you another example. They said, Allah created Adam with hand. They said, no, no, no. With His power. Type question. What about the devil? Iblis. Wasn't he created with Allah's power? So can we say Allah created the devil with His hand? A'udhu billah. See, it sounds so awful. Awful. It's wrong. Okay, based on what you guys saying, power it means, or ability or capability, He created everything with that. So what's the point that Iblis told Allah, oh Allah, I was created from fire and he was created from mud and I'm better than him. Allah now He want to answer Iblis by showing him that Adam better than him, by saying what? I created him by my hand. That would show you how Allah favored it. But if hand it means power, and both were created by Allah's power, Allah making sense in this case? Which is so wrong to say that. They said, Allah doesn't talk. طيب, who talked to Musa when Musa came to the valley in Sinai? An angel. So, an angel told Musa, I am your Lord, worship me alone and don't associate other with me? Can an angel say that? So obviously the one who talked to Musa was Allah. See, they tried to switch, see, the obvious meaning. Allah said, when Musa came to the valley, I told him. So it means Allah talking to him. They said, no, I told him, it means I told him through Jibreel. I am your Lord. Jibreel would say, I am your Lord, and listen to me. Or a tree would say, I am your Lord, and listen to me. It's impossible. It's when you give an other than the obvious meaning, they start making even worse mistakes. They said Allah descend in the last third of the night. They said Allah doesn't descend. His mercy descend. We said okay. But the hadith said, and by Fajr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will leave the first layer of the sky, will leave it. So it means Allah's mercy will leave the earth. No more mercy on earth. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. So that's why every time they try to switch the meaning, to make tahrif, to make ta'wil, they make it even worse. They make it even worse. Okay? طيب. That's why we said tahrif to the meaning is not acceptable. It's not acceptable because it make the Sharia open the door. And if you open this door, you cannot close it. If you open this door, you cannot close it. Why? If you said the obvious is not, or the appearing mean is not what intent, just like that, how you will draw the line? Somebody come and tell you, the salat is not intended to be salat 5 times a day. It means only to make dua 5 times a day. Oh, don't think the Prophet ﷺ, when he said fast, it means fasting, abstain from food. No, no, abstain from what is wrong. Just choose one type of food and that's enough. Not to practice. How you draw the line? That's why we have a group, it's called al-Batiniyah. They said there is appearing meaning and heading meaning. To the extent they said there is no difference between wine and water. There is no difference between cousin and mothers. There is no difference between daughters and wives. They are all the same. They are all halal. There is no difference between boys and girls. And guess what? They were popular. They became in charge of the big portion of the Muslim country for a long, long time. To the extent even the boy who will prevent his family, prevent him, or he will see homosexuality as something bad, might be executed, killed. So to that extent, yes, to that extent. So where to draw the line? To draw the line is very clear. We take the obvious meaning unless there is a legit and authentic proof to let you change the meaning from obvious to another. Claiming that the proof that we have to change all these attributes of Allah to another meaning because we are afraid to make tamthil is not a legit. Is not legit. Is not a good reason. Why? Because when we say Allah's hand, it doesn't necessitate that His hand similar to His hands. When we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's laugh, it doesn't mean His laugh like our laugh. Has mercy, has wisdom, has knowledge, will not say that these attributes are similar to us. Sallallahu sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad.